With the push of a button, I can rev my mother's Q60, my father's Jeep Grand Cherokee, and my Cadillac ATS without even entering the car. Ford, with the most recent generation of the Mustang, created a feature called Remote Rev, where you could use the key fob to rev your car and show it off to your friends. And I think this is actually really cool, which is why I'm going to try and make it. But first, I want to set forth one specific goal I have for this project. The Mustang has default rev patterns, which means when you press the button on the key fob, the car will blip the throttle the exact way Ford programmed it. Well, I want these patterns to be controlled by you. I want it to be manual. So when I wake up bright and early in the morning, I can remote start my car and rev it to whatever tune I want, which is a great way to really piss off your neighbors, so please don't do that. Sorry, plan. The plan is simple. Maybe a little too simple, actually. I'm going to start off with a linear actuator. A linear actuator takes rotary motion and transforms it into straight line movement. And I'm going to need this linear movement to press down the pedal. Now this actuator is going to be connected to a wireless receiver / control box. With this, we can control the movement of the actuator via a remote. And then this piece of hardware is going to be connected to a power source. And that's it for now. But to build it, we have to go back over a year ago. So back in April of 2024, I started building this. Here's a time lapse I had of me wiring everything and hooking everything up. It's pretty simple. The red wires go to their respective spot on the control box, and then same with the black wires. I ended up just buying some generic wire from Home Depot and marking them with either red or black. And don't get me started on what I chose to use for the power source. This was a while ago and I just simply didn't know any better. But you'll see why it becomes an issue later on. All right, here we are. So I got everything set up, I believe, and I'm really scared because I hope it works. So we got the batteries. They're connected to these wire connectors, and then this black one marked with the Sharpie is going into the black side, red one going into the red side, and those connect up with the motor right here. This is 12 volts. It should work. It's not working. Oh, Connor. I don't know why when I needed 12 volts for the actuator, I decided to get a 9-volt battery and then 4 AA's adding up to 3 volts to get 12 volts. That wasn't very smart of me, but at the same time, I wasn't even 18 when I filmed this. But anyways, I somehow got it working. Oh my god! Oh my god! Yo! So I had a little bit of false hope that this was going to actually work. So I went out and I tried to test it on the car. And of course, no, it didn't work. No. There's no way it stopped working. But at least I know all the other components work and I wired everything correct. So we just needed a new power source. So here's what I did. So my current power source was really crappy. The batteries would move around inside of them and they would just get drained super quickly. So to try and solve this, I hooked it up to a 12-volt car charger. So to go over how I put it in quickly, the actuator came with these handy mounting brackets. So I screwed it into this screw hole that for some reason just didn't have a screw in it. Don't know if that's an issue or not, but it was really handy for hooking it up. And then all I did was attach the actuator to the bracket by using this push pin, and it was in position. Alright, so here's the current situation. I got this screwed on and I have it attached to the linear actuator here using this pin. That is secured. I put a bit of command strip adhesive right on the end of the linear actuator, so when it pushes down and comes back up, it won't like slide all over. It'll stay in one place. It'll push in one exact spot, which is as close to the top as I can put it, because that's where it's the easiest to move the pedal. Time to see if this works. All right, so I think I got everything set up. I'm gonna remote start my car. I'm gonna use the remote and see if it revs. For some reason, the wind noise was so bad today, I'm muting for your convenience. But essentially, the car remote started, which is great because that means my car isn't broken, but the system did not work. So long story short, I stared blankly into my car window for a couple minutes, wasting my gas, until I realized that when you remote start this car, it doesn't actually allow anything to charge inside of it. So therefore, my actuator is not getting any power. But after starting the car normally, it worked. It's a little slow, but it works. gonna need to buy a separate battery, which I'm looking at doing. So when I remote start the car, it can run off of that battery, and it should work. All right, chat, it only took me 1 year, but I finally got the battery I needed. All right, here we go. And ha. I don't know why I made that sound. I'm not gonna throw the battery. All right, take a look at this battery. This better be a good battery. Okay, good news. There's overheating protection, over voltage protection, over discharging protection, short circuit protection. I should not die using this battery. Let me check temperature real quick. All right, now that's red. There it is, battery. Cool. So before we hook up the new battery to our system, I was starting to get tired with all the wires everywhere. So I whipped up a simple box in Onshape and printed it out so it could house the receiver and all the cables. Two things. One, I'm not sure why one of the corners popped off of the build plate. That resulted in a little bit of funkiness on one corner, but we can just turn it and ignore that. And also number two, don't mind the color of the filament. I needed to use my junk filament because I delegated the other filament to other stuff. So anyway, now that it's looking a lot nicer, it's time to rewire everything, and then we're going to give it a quick check to make sure it works, and it seems like we're all good. Okay, so imagine this. You just pulled up to a car meet with a couple of friends. It's also being held in a garage for some reason, but don't think about that part. You get out and you start wiping some dusty spots off of your car so it looks in pristine condition. And then you notice someone, so you ask them, "Dude, you want to hear this thing?" But before you got out of the car, you set up this remote rev system. So now you're standing right outside the car revving it. We got the key, we got the rever. And now it's time to see if it works. If you're wondering why my car didn't sound very good or rev very high, you can thank Cadillac for putting in a rev limiter. And alas, our time here has come to an end. We made a functioning product, but with engineering, there's always room for improvement. If this video does well, there are two things I really want to improve on with this remote rev system. The first thing is I want to get a higher powered linear actuator so that it can press down the pedal faster. That would be nice. And number two, I want to be easier to mount. Screwing a bracket in somewhere in the car and then mounting the actuator via push pin's fine, but it takes around like 5 minutes. What I think would be cool is if this came as a solid product. Basically, you don't even have to mount it anywhere. It just comes with this really heavy base and the linear actuator is attached to it. So all you have to do is place it on the floor of your car and that's it. You don't have to spend time mounting it anywhere. And then of course it would be easily rechargeable. So that's all for me. Hopefully you found this project somewhat fun, somewhat entertaining, whatever, and I'll see you later.